It's mid-September, and the postseason picture is taking shape. In the American League East, that picture is about to get clearer. Tonight in Baltimore,
Rutschman sends us home.
The former #1 pick looks to hold off Randy Arozarena and the Rays in a tight race for the division crown.
What a play by Arozarena.
And while hope is fading for the Yankees and the Red Sox's wild card chances, baseball's fiercest rivalry is still alive and well in Boston.
She's gone! Aaron Judge, a titanic shot! Cedric Mullins completes the cycle. Is gone! And Tampa Bay wins it 7-5.
A walk-off home run. Can you believe it?
It's the final stretch. It's the AL East. It's baseball night in America.
The Orioles try and add to their division lead. Kyle Bradish on the mound. They open up a 4-game series with the Rays. It's a 2-game advantage for Baltimore in the East at the moment. And at the bottom of the division, that's Aaron Judge, 30 homers, 3rd straight season, playing another doubleheader with their rival Red Sox. Boston took Game 1 earlier today. Fox Baseball Night in America is sponsored by Geico. Inside our studios in Los Angeles, we welcome you live, and thanks for tuning in. Hope you're having a good week and a happening Thursday with Mark Sweeney and Eric Karros. I'm Chris Myers. Get their thoughts on the games coming up in the season ahead. It's crunch time. 2.5 weeks to go. Let's check on some highlights from games earlier today. In the National League, you got 4 teams battling for one wild card spot. Diamondbacks are one of those. Meanwhile, back in the American League, the Orioles, the top team, best record, and plenty of optimism in Baltimore these days. 2023 has been a magical run for this team. They're in search of the franchise's first title since 1983. But a closer look at the O's season reveals why a World Series could be in the cards.
We've got a real good team, real good roster, and we've got some hopes of making the playoffs this year. I believe that our rebuild is behind us.
It's into right field. It's a home run. His first opening day swing. Adley Rutschman puts the Orioles on the board in the new season. Below. This is Gunnar Henderson. It's at 462 feet. That is a Utah Street shocker. Henderson absolutely demolished. And the Orioles take what has eluded them for so long. A series win at the Trop. Hit well, hit deep. Mullins. He got it. He cannot be serious. Oh my gosh. He cannot have just done that. The play of a lifetime.
Kidding me.
That is out of here. Cedric Mullins robs a home run. Cedric Mullins hits a home run. We'll remember this one forever as the Cedric Mullins game.
This is not a feel-good story anymore. This is a legit team.
That's exciting in Baltimore. This is the way it looks at the moment. We got about 15 games left in the regular season, less than 2.5 weeks. That wild card situation will shake it up. But the Orioles and the Rays, they're big differences. They battle for either a division or a wild card. We'll see them both in the postseason. Remember, Baltimore was a 25-1 when the season started, 25-1 to win the division. That was the worst of any of the teams in the division, and they have the best record in the American League. So who's better built for the postseason? Mark, we'll start with you, the Rays or the Orioles?
On a perfect September night in Baltimore, it is a meaningful September night at Camden Yards. They've waited a long time for these kinds of days, and the top 2 teams in the American League face off in the first of a 4-game series. Randy's Rays and the upstart Orioles separated by just 2 games in the American League East with 2.5 weeks remaining. We welcome you inside. Joe Davis with the Hall of Famer John Smoltz, and what a series we've got lined up for you. Now, this is nothing new for Tampa Bay as they try to win their third division title over the last 4 seasons, but Baltimore is just 2 years removed from losing 110 games. They're trying to win their first division title since 2014, and this is a massive 4-game series lined up.
It really is. 2 of the best teams, and this is what you leave spring training hoping to have that shot for the #1 seed. One of these teams are going to be happy before the year's over. They're both going to be in the dance. They're not mathematically there yet, but they're going to be there. And when Baltimore took 3 out of 4 in Tampa, that team grew in confidence. Tampa's had a magical year, a lot of injuries, but this is what you play for. 4 games to really put a stronghold on a division and a #1 seed.
You get a big series, you hope that you have a nice pitching matchup lined up to get it going, and we sure do. 2 of the top 5 pitchers in the American League in ERA going head-to-head, Savali and Bradish.
Big pickup for the Rays and Savali. They've had some injuries in their rotation. Both pitchers doing extremely well and doing it different ways. They don't have eye-popping stuff, but they pitch to their strengths, and that's why they're one of the top 5 in the ERA, and that's why they're so important to each club as they move towards this playoff run and hopefully a deep one.
As this series gets started, we go down to the field with Ken Rosenthal for more.
Joe, every year people ask, how do the Rays do it? This year, the question seems especially relevant. The Rays are without 3 members of their original rotation, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, and Jeffrey Springs. They're also without Wander Franco, who remains on administrative leave, and yet here they are about to begin a series in which they can take over the AL East lead. The team they are chasing, the Orioles, Joe, you said it. They're looking for their first division title since 2014. Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, 2 of the top young players in the game. Grayson Rodriguez, one of the top young pitchers. And for the Orioles, this should only be the start. Their farm system remains loaded, and while anything can happen in this crazy sport, they should be well positioned for years to come. Joe?
Yeah, no question about it, Kenny, as the Orioles with this 2-game lead in the division, looking for their first title since 2014. And you know, at the start of the season, the Rays raced out to that record start. They were 13-0 to begin the season. They led the division for the first 99 days by as many as 6.5 at the end of June. But then they went into a bit of a slide that closed the gap into the end of July, and the Orioles took over first place and been there since. With a win tonight, though, the Rays could get as close as they've been since late July. Top 2 records in the American League this year. These 2 teams have really separated themselves as the class of the AL. Best all year, best however you want to break it down. And it's funny, you know, the Rays recovered from that 5-15 run, and they've been one of the best teams in baseball. It's just the Orioles have not let up.
They really haven't. They've gone nowhere. This time of year, usually it's football talk in Baltimore. Not anymore. The Orioles are starting to steal the headlines.
Let's see the lineup that Kevin Cash will send out there for the first game. Yandy Diaz having a monster season, leads things off, and then it's Brandon Lau. Randy Arozarena bats third, and the bigger the game, the better the chance there is that Randy's going to do something special. Isaac Paredes has had a breakout season as well, hitting 29 home runs. Josh Lowe bats 5th, starts in right field. Then it's Harold Ramirez DHing. Taylor Walls starts at short, Luke Raley's in center, and Christian Bethancourt does the catching out of the 9th spot. On the mound for the Orioles is 27-year-old Kyle Bradish, who's in his 2nd season. Friday at Fenway Park, 9 strikeouts, no walks. That is the 7th consecutive Bradish start the Orioles have won. He and they getting more and more confident as this year goes on.
Yeah, it's crucial that he continues this trend as they are taking on the Rays, and he gets a lot of ground balls. He does a nice job with his secondary stuff, and he's aggressive in the strike zone. So for this young man, he knows this important series in Game 1. They win Game 1, they're at least guaranteed to be in first place before this 4-game season ends, or 4-game series ends.
Not just a battle for the division and the top seed, John, but maybe even a bigger deal is to avoid what happens if you don't come out on the right end of this. You are the 4 seed, and you've got to play in the wild card round.
Yeah, you know, this reminds me of the Dodgers and Giants battle a few years back where that same thing played out. And for the Orioles, it's crucial that they get the #1 or #2 seed because they need that bye based on the way their rotation is set up. And obviously their offense is very, very stingy. But that's what they're trying to accomplish so far in this season.
And for the Rays, close to a must-win series, trying to win the East for the 3rd time in 4 years. Yandy Diaz climbs in. Kyle Bradish comes home with the first pitch, and off we go with strike 1.